Hi, I'm Candy from Quilt Vine, and it is about time to get this holiday pillow sew along started that we've been talking about. Okay, our pillow that we're going to be doing is we have a snowflake or we have a Christmas tree. If you go to our website, quiltvine.com, we have a free downloadable pattern for the holiday pillow. And first of all, I'm going to be showing you how to do the applique pillow. So these two are the applique. And in the video, I'm going to be demonstrating on the snowflake. And then in the second video, we'll be showing you how to do it where it's reminiscent of embroidery or kind of like red work, except I do this on the sewing machine with a decorative stitch on the sewing machine. And also in the video, I'm going to show you how to do the envelope pillow backs the way I do them. So let's grab our supplies and let's get started. Okay, for our applique pillow, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace the snowflake, or if you're doing the tree, whichever one you're doing, the snowflake or the tree, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace that onto the Heat and Bond Light, or the paperback fusible web, and I prefer the Heat and Bond Light. So here's my Heat and Bond Light, and we're just going to lay it over it, and we're going to trace it. I can see it on here, but if you're having trouble seeing the lines through the Heat and Bond, you could put it onto a light box. You might be able to see it better there at the light box. Now, what I like to do for this one, because there's so many straight lines, is I'm going to just mark where all my points are, and then I'll take a little ruler and attach all my points. You can do it freehand like this if you want, and I'm going to do that right now, showing you. But it's much easier just attaching those points, going around and around like that. Actually, it's not going too bad freehand, so maybe I'll just keep going freehand. So as you can see with the snowflake, we just have half of it. So I'm going to continue tracing this half, and then I'm going to flip it to trace the other half. Okay, once I have the whole entire snowflake traced onto the paper side of the Heat and Bond Light, I'm going to rough cut it out. And you want to make sure you're at least 1/4 of an inch past the outside. And once you get it ironed onto the fabric, then we're going to cut it exactly on the line. But right now we're rough cutting it, and that's all I'm going to do to rough cut it. Then you're going to fuse it to the back side of your fabric. So since I'm using a solid, it doesn't really matter which side I'm putting it on. So this will be the back of the fabric if you're using a print. And I'm just going to press this a little bit, make sure it's nice and flat and straight. And then we're just going to put our snowflake on. Okay. All right, I'm going to put it to one side so I don't waste fabric. And we just adhere it to the back. Doesn't really need to be too long in each place, maybe like 5 to 10 seconds in each place. You don't want to rub it. We just need to press it on. I'm going to make sure it's stuck all over. Make sure I get the center too. Okay. I'm now taking some really nice sharp scissors. You do want to use your nice sharp paper scissors. And we're going to cut out exactly on the line. Right now I'm just rough cutting it to get it off of that big piece of fabric. And we're going to cut it right exactly on the line. And I'm just going to keep going around and around and around. Since there's so many straight lines, I've decided I'm going to try doing this with the rotary cutter, because I'm on my mat here. And be careful, because I'm not using a ruler. And you want to make sure that you don't go too deep into there. See how that's going a lot quicker than the scissors.
And I'll just keep going around and around. Make sure I got that cut the whole way through there. And I'm using a smaller rotary cutter here. This is a 28 millimeter. It's much easier if you have a small one. And then the same thing here for the diamonds that are in the center. So much easier with the rotary cutter. But if you aren't comfortable doing it with the rotary cutter and you want to cut the whole thing out with the scissors, that's fine too. So you would just take, to do the diamonds with the scissors, you know, just take, you put a little slit in the center, and then you can get your scissors in there to cut them out. Okay, so it's not that difficult, but the rotary cutter just makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to keep cutting, and I'll get back to you. And there we have it. The entire snowflake is now cut out. And then we'll take and we'll peel the heat and bond off the back. So I'm going to do that. Just got to be really careful as I peel all that off. And you can see the heat and bond is stuck to the fabric. So I'm going to keep working my way around and get all that peeled off. Now I have my background fabric for my pillow that I'm ready to adhere my snowflake to. I plan on making a 16-inch pillow, so I've cut this a little bit larger. I'm not sure if I cut this like 17 or 18 inches square, because I'll trim it down then when I'm done. And I've pressed registration marks into here, if you can see them, so that way it's easy for me to line up the snowflake and get it centered. So I'm going to get this centered using my registrations. And once I have that centered, I am ready to fuse that to my background fabric. So I'm going to start from the center and work my way out. I'm just going to let it lay there for about, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 seconds. And we're going to cover every area of it. Make sure it's all fused in place. Then once my snowflake is fused to my background, then I'm ready to stitch around it. Okay, and it's that simple, and I'm ready to stitch. Okay, I've got my open toe foot on, and I've set my double blanket stitch. I've got my width at 3 and my length at 2.5. And now I'm just going to stitch this down. I like the double blanket stitch because it really does outline it. And when your needle is over to the right, you want it on the background fabric, and when it's on the left, you want it biting into the applique. And this is just it's a lot to go around here with the snowflake. You need to go slow. I also am using a gray thread, so there is a little bit of contrast. You could use the red if you like, but I always like the bit of contrast on my appliques when I stitch them down. And as you get to the corners, you need to be careful with the way you turn and stitch in. See, I like to turn it at an angle at the corners. And keep going. On the straightaway, you can go a bit faster. I don't like to go too fast though, because it's just better to slow and steady. fingers out of the way. And the same way with the inside quarters. I like to take that bite in there at the angle. And keep going. And like I said, it's just keep on going, round and round and round. So I'm making 2 of them. I've got the one done, and I'll show you that one up a little bit closer. Okay, I've tried getting my camera in here where you can see better what I'm doing. So let's try it again. We've got our bite over there. See how when it's on the right, it's in the background. And I have to lift my foot. See, it's not, and then up there, just perfect. So we've got bite in, I turn it at the angle when it bites in the corner. And then we're gonna keep going straight. See, the right is in the background, left is on the applique. Just keep going along like that. See, the double blanket stitch goes forward, back, forward, then it's left, right, forward, back, forward, left, right. See, and that really makes a nice outline. If you only have the single blanket stitch, you can do that. If you only have a zigzag, you can do that. It's really just use whatever stitch you have. Since my machine has this stitch, that's the one I prefer to use. See, it does make a nice outline. So this is going to take a little time. Hopefully you've gotten a better view of it here. And I'm just going to keep at this. And we'll take a look at it and get it all done. Okay, my pillow top is complete. My applique is on and it's all stitched down. You can see the stitching. So now I'm ready to make the back of my pillow. And I'm going to show you the way I do that because I think it is a very quick and easy way. And the way I'm doing this pillow is where the back is kind of like, you know, folded over where you can just put an insert in. So I can put this over my pillow for the Christmas holiday and then I can take it off and use that pillow for something else. So what I do is I take a width of fabric, which is usually anywhere from like 40 to 42, sometimes even 44 inches. So I had my width of fabric, and from that, here's what I have left, my remaining width of fabric. I cut off a 16-inch, I'm sorry, I think I cut this one 17. I cut off a 17-inch piece from my width of fabric, and from that, I made my pillow top. So with what is remaining from my width of fabric is, let's see, I've got, there's 24, 25, 26, 27. It's about 28, but I need to cut off the selvage. So first I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut off the selvage. So I have a piece of fabric now that is 17 inches, which is my width for my pillow top, by about, what I said, 30 couple, no, not 30, there's 24, 25, 26, 27. So now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do anything with cutting it yet. I'm going to leave it that big, and I'm going to press over a seam allowance. And this pressing mat is kind of small. Let me get a bigger pressing mat here. Okay, I've got my pressing mat here now, and I'm ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press under, basically it's a hem. So I'm going to use a little bit of starch alternative, just get my edge just to hold down real nice. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to fold over about a 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to press that down. And then I'm going to do that again. Fold over another 1/4 of an inch so there's no raw edge there. And press that down. Okay, now on the other side, I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to make sure I do it on the same side of the fabric. I'm going to do that again, or I'm going to do a nice little pressed over hem. Okay, a 1/4 of an inch there. And it's like I said, we're just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to press it down again so I have no raw edge. Okay, now I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch that down so both sides are hemmed. Okay, so I've stitched that. You can see where I've got the hem stitched, and I did that on both sides. Now I'm going to take and fold it in half, matching up my two sides that are hemmed, and I'm going to cut it in half. And so my favorite way to cut that in half is I've got this folded over, and I'm just going to take a ruler and a rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut off just the teeniest bit there at the fold. That way I know I'm cutting it in half. And see, all I did was I cut off the fold. See how teeny that is? And now I've got 2 equal pieces. So this is my back. So now to stitch my back together, this is very, very simple. Of course, first I need to find my front. Okay, here's my front. So I'm going to take my front right side up. Then I'm going to take one of my backs and I want it right side down. And with my fabric being the same front and back, the only way I know right side from wrong side is because of my hem. So the part that's hemmed over to the back. And this will be the part of the back that's most visible. Then I take the other one, right side down, and place it over. See, now what I'm doing, see this first piece? I'm lining up the raw edges. So this doesn't cover the whole front. And now I'm going to take the second piece, right side down, and I'm going to line it up on the 3 sides of the raw edges. All right, I'm going to put some pins in it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch the entire way around it. I'm going to probably use like my 1/4 inch. You can use a 1/4 inch. You can use a little more than 1/4 inch if you want. It really doesn't matter. And actually, if this ends up being a little bit smaller than your pillow, or even your pillow form, that's probably good because it actually looks better when your pillow is really stuffed in there. It looks better than having like a loose pillowcase and like a pillow form that's too small. So if you want to use a bigger seam allowance, you know, whatever works for you. So I'm just about done pinning these around, and then I'm going to stitch around the entire thing. Might as well leave it on and just show you my process. Okay, I've got enough pins in there now. So let's take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to need to change and put my 1/4 inch foot on, which is no biggie. Give me just a second for that. Okay, now I'm going to stitch the whole way around the entire pillow. Get my pin in my pin cushion. Okay, so I've stitched around the whole way around the entire pillow with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now what I've decided to do, because this fabric I'm using, actually unravels pretty easily. And I'm going to stuff a larger pillow form into it. So I'm going to actually zigzag the whole way around that to just reinforce it and to keep it from unraveling. So I've got changed my foot out, and I've got my zigzag ready to go. And so I'm just going to do that the whole way around it. And what I like to do is, the zigzag on the right side of my needle, it's going to go off of the fabric just a wee bit to just really finish that edge. I've never had a serger, but I think some people, I think you could use a serger for this step if you have one. But I'm going to go around to all 4 sides. All right, so you can see I've zigzagged around the entire thing, and now we are ready to flip. I love doing it this method. There's not a lot of measuring. You just have to lay it on top of your pillow front and stitch around the entire thing. Oops, get my point out there. Okay, I'll put my points out. Okay, so there we are. And see how it folds over. Let me grab a pillow form and we'll stuff it in. All right, this pillow I'm using here is actually a pillow that I used to have on my couch that I don't really care for much anymore. And I'm always putting a different pillow cover over it. You can go out and buy a pillow form if you don't have anything. But what I recommend is use a pillow you have. Make it to suit a size pillow you have, because it is just for Christmas. And you can take it off when the holiday season is over. So now we're just going to have to, now what you're going to do is when you stuff it in, see this side's on the outside, so you're going to want to stuff the inside in first. And we're going to do that. And like I said, it may fit a little tight. I like mine to fit tight. I like it to fill the pillow form out. Like to hold the corners and then hold these corners. And just kind of, when I do that, I'm holding the corners. And there we have the snowflake pillow. I'm also going to be showing you other things with the snowflake, so just stay tuned.